Sudden elevation of Zalem to the presence of the emperor was his opening into a world where he found his twin flame, he found his karma, he found his initiations, and he found his elevation to positions of prominence in the government. I should say that his call and his vow, which he made in the beginning, was also connected to his karma. For deep within the recesses of his soul, he understood that he must come in contact with such people in order to balance past karma and in order to enter a new phase of his life. And that phase of his life was to be a path with his twin flame. But as we shall see, his exercise of his free will prevented that from happening. So we begin again at page 86. The glories and marvels of Atlantis the Great were not in vain. Thou and I, reader, lived then and before then. The glories of those long dead centuries seen by us have been enshrined in our souls and made us much, aye, most of what we are, influenced our acts, soothed us with their beauty. What then, though the forms of the dim, mysterious past are effaced from all existence, save in the record of the great book of life, the soul? Their influence lives and forever. Shall we not then strive that our labors may ennoble, may live in soul and in spirit, and be looked back upon by ourselves and others, even as I here look back upon the record of my dead, but ever-living past? It is a great joy thus to have attained the eminences of the spirit which enable me to scan the history of lives from which I passed through the portal of the grave. Lives which now I am returned to gaze upon through the eyes of a different personality, a personality strung, greatest one of a chain, like pearls upon a thread, teaching me, I am I. Smoky some of these pearls, black others, or white or pink, aye, some are even red. Could tears add to their number, I would have more, oh, so many more, for the white ones are so few, and the smoky, the black, and the red so many. But my pearl of great price is my last life. Of white is it, and by my master was it cut cruciform. When he gave it to me, he said, It is done. Verily so. It marks the junction of finity with infinity. So is it the period set to all time for me. Save I elect. At the bottom of page 87. I have said that we believed in Incal and symbolized him as the sun god, but the sun itself was an emblem. To assert that we, despite our enlightenment, adored the orb of day would be as absurd as to say that the Christians adore the cross of the crucifixion for itself. In both cases, it is the attached significance that caused the sun and causes the cross to be held in any sort of regard. Bottom of 88. In our monotheism, we differed little from the religion dominating the Hebraic civilization. We recognize no divine trinity, nor any Christ spirit, neither any Savior except the endeavor to do the best we knew in the sight of Incal. We considered all mankind as the sons of God, not any one mysteriously conceived person as solely his son. Miracle was an impossible thing, for all things were deemed rationally referable to uncontravenable law. But the Poseidon did believe that Inca, or Incal, had once lived in human form upon the earth, and had cast off the gross body of the world to assume that of unfettered spirit. He had in that time created mankind, and as the Poseidon were evolutionists, that word mankind embraced all the lower animals too. In course of time, beings of the genus Homo were evolved, one man and one woman, and then Incal had placed woman spiritually highest and above man, a position which she had lost through an attempt to enjoy a fruit which grew on the tree of life in the garden of heaven. But in doing this she had, according to the legend, disobeyed Incal, who had said that his highest, most progressed children should not enjoy this fruit, For whosoever did should surely die, because no mortal being could have immortal life, and also reproduce its kind. The legend read, I have said unto my creatures, attain perfection and study it evermore, and such is endless life. But whoso enjoyeth this tree cannot contain self. The form of punishment meted out was the rationalistic, as the woman's attempt was to attain forbidden pleasures, and she did not, uninstructed, know how. Her hand slipped from its grasp on the fruit, and its side was torn out, so that its seed dropped on the earth and became flint stones, while the fruit still adhered to the tree and became of the likeness of a great fiery serpent, whereof the breath scorched the hands of the culprit. Feeling the pain, she let go her hold on the tree of life, falling prone upon the earth, and never fully recovering from the injury. Thus man became the superior being through the development of his nature by the necessity he was under of preserving his mate and himself from the cold and kindred conditions which came along with the flintstones. The last glacial or ice age. Having fallen back into these material conditions, reproduction of species was a necessity once more, and so the law of continence supposedly commanded by Inkel was broken. Death thus entered again into the sum of human reckoning, and until the word, he observed, no man could know a deathless condition. That is, until the coming of the Word incarnate. Contain thyself is the great command that is written here. On this dependeth all knowledge. No occult law is so great as this. Use all things of this world as abusing none. Such was the popular belief regarding the creation of humankind by Inkel. The higher priests held to a religion which was virtually Essenianism, although for obvious reasons the populace were not aware of this fact. The writer is speaking of the religion of the Essenes at the time of Jesus. The date of this fabled occurrence was theologically supposed to have been precedent at least 1,000 centuries, and some semi-authorities set it at even a more extended period than that. Inkel, the father of life, was not supposed to punish his children, except that he made the laws of nature self-executive or self-executing. His immanent will, and if anyone transgressed these, the guilt was inexorably punished by nature, it being impossible to set in motion a cause without a consequent effect. If the cause was good, so also was the consequence, and in this they were undeviatingly correct. No mediator can avert for us the results of our misdeeds. So it is the teaching that instead of God directly punishing man in man's compromised state, the law of karma is set in motion through nature itself. And that law is self-executing, and nature and the law contains the immanence of the will of God. And so, to each there is the receiving of the consequences of his actions. Now this is an amazing statement that is written here. No mediator can avert for us the results of our misdeeds. And so the footnote says, do not confuse undoing with atonement. Christ atoned, which means he paid the price for our sin so that we could go on living, so that the sin itself would not cause instantaneous death. Christ provides the atonement for our sin. We must undo the sin by making reparations, by balancing our karma, by paying our debts. So Christ does not avert for us the results of our misdeeds, yet he does provide the atonement for them. This is the crux of Christianity's misunderstanding of the forgiveness of sin. Atonement is the forgiveness of sin, but that forgiveness does not absolve us of the responsibility for the sin or of the necessity to learn the lessons of the consequences of our actions. If we identify with one side of sin, we will think that we are suffering, being punished, and God is causing us to suffer and to be punished. If we if we identify with the true side of sin, we will say, this is divine justice. We will praise divine justice that returns to us the consequences of all of our actions, good causes and bad causes. And we will see that the law is just and that this energy returns to us so that it can be transmuted. And we do have the dispensation of the violet flame today. We do have the mediatorship of our holy Christ self. So if we see returning energy as the opportunity to pay our debts, to transmute misqualified energy that will hurt others if we do not transmute it, then we rejoice in our returning karma. We don't try to avoid it, dodge it, leave the mystery school, avoid the Maxine light or the unfed flame, place ourselves in some far distant place where life is less intense. We come to the intensity of the flame because the flame attracts to itself the intensity of our karma so that we may accelerate. God gives us the greater light for the greater transmutation. Therefore, why flee? As Jesus' disciples said, where shall we go, Lord? Thou hast the word of eternal life. Whither shall I flee from thy presence? So this is a very important teaching, and it has been lost on all of Christendom today for the misstatement or the non-statement of the true teachings of Jesus Christ, who surely brought this message. Whether it is written or not written, Jesus embodied this teaching. The Poseid nation believed in a heaven of good effects for those who put good causes into operation. Obviously, the etheric octave. And there was a region filled with bad effects for the wicked, the astral plane. The two places were adjacent, and those who were neither wholly good nor wholly bad were supposed to live on a middle territory, so to speak. We have spoken of that middle territory being the planet Earth itself. But obviously there is a middle territory when we are out of the body, and that middle territory is probably the highest level of the astral plane or the lowest level of the etheric plane, which converge. But both of these post-vital conditions were included in the shadowy land, as the word Navazamin may be translated literally, a country of departed souls. Though the religion of Incal was one based on cause and effect, nevertheless a slight inconsistency appeared in the more or less prevalent belief that he was supposed to reward the very good. Today, my friend, thou standest on the threshold of a new unfoldment. The religion of today is even yet tinctured by this concept of an omnipotent but man-like creator, heritage of a dead antiquity. But thou art living in the final years of an old human cycle, the sixth. While I choose not at present to explain what this means, I will do so ere I bid thee God's peace. But I will say that humanity's new conception of the eternal cause will be more lofty, more sublime, purer, wider, and more of an approach to boundlessness than anything of which the long-gone eons of time have ever dreamed. Christ is indeed risen, and cometh unto his own, who ere long shall know him, as no exoteric man hath ever known him. And knowing him, they shall know the things of the Father, and do them, because it is written, I go unto my Father. Gloria in excelsis. Faith shall soon be knowledge, belief shall be twin with science, and the word shall blaze as a sun of glorious new meaning. For true religion means, I bind together. You can write down in your notes, religion is from the Latin religio, R-E-L-I-G-I-O, religio. It means the bond between man and the gods, or religare, R-E-L-I-G-A-R-E, to bind back. There is now a figure that is inscribed in the book on this page of a cross. And all ends of the cross are open. And there is a fiat written below the cross which says, close not the ends of my cross. Beneath which I have written in my book, I am the open door, no man can shut. From the right angles formed by the arms of the cross, there go forth lightning-like rays. And there is a 7-pointed star in the center of this cross. There are abbreviated, there are initials at each end. At the north, there is J period H period. The east, N period H period. West, H period I period. South, V period. The exoteric church hath closed the ends of his cross. Wherefore they are exoteric, and shall not ever be esoteric until they open the ends of that four-way path. Open thine eyes and thine ears. I have much teaching to give you on what I have just read to you. It could not be given by 5, but since I haven't given you an opportunity to ask questions since the course began, I will do so now and pick up tomorrow on the instruction on what I have read. If you have a question to ask me, would you take the microphone at the lectern that is used by the decree leaders, and will our decree leaders move away all but one mic? I would like you to direct your questions to the subject of this course, but if you are burning with a question that is not the subject of this course, I will try to oblige and answer you. When I addressed the commencement of the first graders and the sixth graders, I gave them the opportunity to ask me questions. It took them about 5 minutes to get up the courage. I hope it won't take you that long. They were very sweet. Would you say your name when you come to the lectern?
My name is Ken McGee, and I was reading this chapter that you just read yesterday, and it occurred to me that if there was a prophecy that one of Jesus' disciples would betray him like 12,000 years ago, that it might have been part of the plan. I mean...
Well, the masters teach that there is no predestination and that there is no finality to karma or to choices to be made. What was a part of the divine plan were the life streams who came with Jesus, his disciples. And what was part of the life stream of Judas was his doubt, fear, and human questioning and records of death that made him reason in his mind that Jesus should have been a liberator of the people by perhaps being a military leader or proclaiming himself the emperor or the governor. And perhaps there entered into his mind the sense that if he did not betray him, others would. And perhaps he thought he was hastening the moment when he would proclaim himself a god by forcing the situation of his capture, his trial, and his crucifixion. Whatever was in the mind of Judas was a part of his karma, a part of his karmic nature. And given that karmic nature, he would have the free will opportunity not to betray Jesus, but the weight on the side of that karma being outpictured was so very great that the prophecy could be given long before his coming. The Brotherhood says today of their prophecies, as has always been said of prophecy, the prophecy may fail by our exercise of free will. Judas was not locked into a pre-programming. He merely fell into it, and the percentages or the odds were that he would. But it would have been perfectly all right if that prophecy had failed. And so we cannot mistake fulfilled prophecy as being, in retrospect, the affirmation that there is predestination, which is what Christians have concluded. And that is why they do not pray for the averting of war or Holocaust or the end times, because they believe the prophecy says that only after this Holocaust of Armageddon will the second coming of Christ be. And so I've heard any number of preachers say, let it happen, hasten the day, because we want the coming of the Lord in glory and his descent in the second coming, because then we will all be saved. So by that convoluted logic, they have surrendered the free will whereby the calamity could be averted.
Thank you.
My name is Dorothy Owens, and I think the question is a part of the teaching, but it's also a question that I sorely need an answer to. And what I'd like to know is the light, the unfed flame, the same as the light that casts no shadow?
Well, how are you defining the light that casts no shadow?
The light that casts no shadow has always been to me the God force.
The what? The God force?
The God force, yes. The force of all creation from which all things came. And no matter from which point it's viewed or seen, it casts no shadow. And when you mention the unfed flame, the same feeling arose within me that it was one and the same, and I do need an answer for myself for that.
The light is talked about in different words, as we've already seen in our text. From the Maxim light, the Odic light, and then the flame, and then the fire, and then the I am that I am. And I think that there are different names for the light because light and a ray of light and a flame itself give us nuances of different manifestations of the same one. The same one. So we know that it is the same one, but there may be a difference of perception of that same one that we are talking about. So you can affirm that the light that casts no shadow is the unfed flame, is the Maxim light, and is God. And you can equate your threefold flame to that, and you can equate your I am presence to that. But we have to know that there may be nuances of difference in all these manifestations that we're speaking of.
Thank you, Mother.
Afternoon, Mother. My name's Mike Durkers, and I have two questions for you. In the book, it talks about that there's just one substance, but a lot of different vibrations of it. And my question is specifically regarding this, and that is in alchemy, Saint Germain talks about visualizing the chemical structure of something you're trying to bring into precipitation. So it appears that matter has structure. Could you elaborate upon this? Is it just is vibration the only key, or does the different manifestations of matter have structure also?
It is written in this book that our modern chemistry is useful in our understanding of our universe, but that it is not the highest understanding. Saint Germain is speaking to us in the language of our age. Your question, does matter have structure, is not an easy one to answer, because one can answer yes and one can answer no. Its appearance has structure, but the appearance of matter may not be what matter is. But if we are going to precipitate matter as he is teaching us in alchemy, then it is useful to use the device of modern chemistry and of its formulas and of the composition of atoms and molecules to draw light into the matrix of a manifestation that is desired. It is entirely possible, if we were advanced scientists and alchemists, that we would be using a different way of visualizing the light coalescing as the form, because of our advanced understanding of what form is and what substance is, as opposed to energy, which we are learning here is one and the same. So I think that we have to rest with the conclusion that, yes, matter is structure, and it is not structure.
Okay.
I don't find this a problem or contradictory. Do you?
I'm probably going to have to study a little bit more. The other question I have is about, they keep talking about the higher forces of the night side and how the night is as pregnant as the day and stuff. And in the glossary here in the front, it talks about, here, let me find it. It talks about Navez, the night, also the goddess of the night, the secret forces of nature. And they were saying how they could use these forces to refine metals and stuff. They say the goddess of the night. Are those benevolent forces, or are we talking manifestations of the secret rays, or can you just elaborate upon that?
I think we're talking about an energy that is the negative side of the plus being the light, the day. I think we're talking about plus, minus. And I think we're talking about perhaps forces that are at play at night, energies that are around the earth in its atmosphere. I noticed that the moment that the sun goes behind the mountain, the entire energy and polarization of the planet changes, and that the entire polarization of my body changes. I've noticed this all of my life. And that the moment that the dawn, when the sun rises, there is this change again. I think that there are secrets of the night side and of the forces that can be harnessed at night that they had in Atlantis, which we have not perceived. Obviously, these are subtle energies.
So is there like a hierarchy? Like, the Ascended Masters are all, good and light and everything?
No, you're not understanding the principle. They're talking about light and darkness in the physical sense of energy. This is the same thing as talking about alpha and omega, or yin and yang. We're not talking about good and evil.
So
we're talking about plus and minus energy, which have to be a part of everything that is created.
Do the directors of the elements, do they oversee all that stuff? Ramesses and Diana, etc.?
Well, it isn't all that stuff. It is simply energy. We're talking about the energy of a cosmos, and we're talking about how they are talking about a Tai Chi and the principle of polarity. And if we would understand the polarity of energy of the day side and the night side of our existence, we could accomplish many of the scientific feats of Atlantis. The elementals service the planetary body in the elements of fire, air, water, and earth, etc. Surely their hierarchs are totally aware and use in directing them the balance of these forces.
Okay, thank you very much.
My name is Margriet Walter. I have a question about twin flames. 5 years ago I came in contact with this church on the theme twin flames. Someone had told me. And I bought the album of Twin Flames, I heard it, and I still don't know in practice the difference between twin flames and soulmates.
Would you like to know?
Yes.
Is that your question?
Yeah.
Twin flames is the term given by the Brotherhood to the two halves of the divine whole created in the white fire body when the I Am Presence is formed.
Yeah.
And this is the masculine and feminine counterparts of one divine whole or one divine being. And they go forth to evolve through the great causal body of God and ultimately into the matter cosmos. They are two halves of one another, and they uniquely have a single blueprint, a single formula. There is no one else in all of creation who can share that. The soul is the negative potential that descends into form. Soulmates are those who are evolving on earth, have made karma, have become students on various rays, and they are soulmates because they are well suited to one another due to the fact that they are undergoing the same levels of initiation, they have the same approximate karma, they have the same set of circumstances to work out, so they find a certain commonality between themselves and often a certain polarity, whereby they work well together. They are usually mission-oriented, and when they fulfill their missions and balance their karma, that balanced karma allows them to go on to be with their twin flames whom they have separated from. So soulmates are fellow souls of a very kindred vibration who may be working in the same chakra, the same level of initiation, and can work well together to accomplish a certain purpose.
Thank you.
Now that is clearly stated in my teachings on twin flames.
Yeah,
I have to say.
But in practice, I don't feel the difference.
In practice, you don't feel the difference?
Yeah.
There is a great difference. There is a tremendous difference.
It's my fault.
The difference is that in the presence of the twin flame, you can feel the oneness of God to the level of the I Am presence. In the presence of a soulmate, you can feel an affinity and a happiness and a joy and a mutual sharing and a love, but it does not span the cosmos into the spirit cosmos, back to the white fire core of being where you were created in the beginning in the great central sun. Now, if you don't have the sensitivity to that, I still don't see how you can miss the difference. There is a big difference.
Maybe I feel it one day. Thank you.
Hello, Mother. I'm Gregory Latham. Yesterday you spoke of Jesus when he reigned on Atlantis as the High Initiate, that over 50% of the people were fully clothed in their Christhood. And we've read in the I Am books of the golden civilizations in the Gobi Desert that had been and are no longer. I'm quandaried as how we come so very close and not make it, and then we fall so very far.
Well, I don't know that we didn't make it. I don't know that those souls didn't all make their ascension. We know that the members of the first three golden ages did all ascend. They never even descended into the compromise of the light. We know that there are life waves from every root race who have ascended and some who have not, who are now in embodiment. And so I mentioned that I thought many of those who had attained their Christhood had remained and chose to remain teachers. And I can't say that any of them have not made it. I can't say that those are the ones who fell, because I don't know. It seems like a very difficult thing to fall once one has attained to a level of Christhood. However, we know that archangels fell. One archangel fell. Angels of great wisdom have fallen and chosen the left-handed path. My answer to this is that none of us can understand evil. We cannot equate with it, and yet it exists. Most people in the world today do not want to believe that evil can embody, is real, or that someone can betray God. And so they look to all kinds of other motivations as to why people do base things and evil things. We know that Lucifer fell by pride. We know that he refused to bend the knee before the issue of God, the sons of God, the daughters of God, the Christ. We don't understand why. It's difficult to put ourselves in that position, the position of the challengers of God, the challengers of the Guru, the challengers of the Ascended Masters. Yet we know that it happens, we know it is there, we know we have to be on guard for it, and we know that it is subtle. On the one hand, we do know that these individuals exist, and on the other hand, when we meet them, we don't want to believe that we are meeting them in the flesh. Theologians have written many long dissertations as to why evil can't incarnate, some of which I incorporated in my book, the introduction to the book on Enoch. But what I say is that if people do not accept that there has been evil in this universe, in this particular cosmic round, there have been those who have betrayed God, and that they are in embodiment, if we aren't willing to recognize that, then we will be overcome by them, and we will not understand the equation in politics, in the economy, in the nations. And that is where many Christians are today. Many people who don't want to believe there can be a war. Many people who want to believe the lies that are stated by the Soviets, the lies that are stated by our own representatives, even in the highest offices of our country. So there is a breed of liars and murderers on the planet, and people are always wanting to believe in peace and not war, and in truth and in goodness, and not be able to deal with that there is a lie and that there is badness. One can never explain why people fall, why they go against their levels of attainment, why they repeat the same mistakes they've made in past civilizations. And you will not understand, and I will not understand, why Phylos commits his great sin, compromises his path. Yet we've all made mistakes in our lives. We've all done things that we wish we had not done. And if we had them to do over, we would do them differently. So we do have the experience in ourselves of doing things that are not in keeping with the highest Christ within ourselves. It is something we grapple with on a daily basis. And God has given us our Christhood to challenge and to face it. I think people fall because they're not on guard. They think they've advanced so much on the path that they could never make a mistake now, they could never lose it now. I think that the Brotherhood has given to us a lot of techniques for dealing with the dweller, for dealing with unreality and karma in ourselves. They have taught us to be astute and alert as to the signs of the turning away from the path, the mental rationalization that an individual goes through when he turns from this central light. I think we are, or can be, the best equipped of people on the entire planet in this regard, because we've been given so much teaching on it. But no one is safe from error while in the condition of the flesh, and the only ultimate safety is the ascended master state. So until you achieve that, we know that it is possible to err, it is possible to go astray, and the farther we are on the path, the more subtle will that event be. I think more I cannot say on the subject at this moment, but evil itself is a great mystery.
Also, I was wondering which came first, the personal dweller or the planetary dweller?
The personal dweller was born with the betrayal of Lucifer in this cosmic cycle. It then becomes planetary in scope because it is multiplied many times over in his fallen angels who embody. But then it becomes, the planetary dweller is only made up of the combined dwellers of its evolutions who have gone astray.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mother. My name is Katya Thompson. This question goes along with the last one on having balanced 51% of your karma. It reminded me about when Godfrey told us, I think it was Godfrey, told us in a dictation that once we'd balanced that 51% of our karma, we could get on with those things we'd like to do now, but we're sacrificing. My question really is...
We could what? Say that again.
That there are things we'd like to do now, but we're sacrificing, not doing them. And that we should get on with balancing up to that 51% of the karma so that once Gabriel came, we could possibly do them.
What do you mean once Gabriel came?
To announce that we had balanced at 51%.
Then we could do what?
Do those things that we had set aside to get to the 51%.
And you're referring to a particular dictation in which this was said?
Yes, I think it was a few months ago. Gabriel's letter was read during Godfrey's dictation. But my question is, if we do get to that point, can we choose not to open that other karma at 51, having balanced 51%, or does that stop us from continuing along the path?
Well, I'm not sure about Gabriel's letter that was read, but I will certainly look into this and see what you are describing as you are describing. But I will tell you that the goal is always to balance 100% of your karma. The why the 51%, as you know, is so important is that qualifies you to make your ascension. Other things being equal, such as fulfilling your divine plan. But it does not close the door to balancing the rest, and I certainly did not find in my experience that I could now do all the things I always wanted to do.
Pretty much, once you've given it up, it's not as if it's important anymore.
No, I don't think it's in the context in what you are saying. I think that we have been taught that the remaining 49% is far more difficult than the first 51%. And to balance the 49%, this is where you are wrestling with the dweller and where every last vestige of the archetypes of absolute evil in the unconscious must be confronted. After 51% is the dark night of the soul. After 51% is the dark night of the spirit, the crucifixion, and so on. So you have major initiations and major trials. And whether or not an individual could elect by free will to maintain himself at the 51% level and not go on and balance the rest of his karma and go on and do things he may wish to do is highly questionable, because you have to maintain yourself at the 51%, and you realize that even for someone who's balanced 100% of their karma, they can make karma on a daily basis so long as they are in embodiment. It's much easier to make karma when 51% is balanced than it is when 100% is balanced, just because you have so much more experience on the path. And you're so much more careful when you have a full cup as to not do anything that is going to compromise what has taken you so long to get through. But I've often told this story about being out on the river in New Jersey when I was a child in a rowboat, and a big storm came up, and I was rowing the boat, and all I could do was row it in place. I could not get ahead, but I wasn't going backward. And if I kept rowing with all my might, I would stay in one place. And after doing this for some time, I got tired and turned over the oars to the other girl who was in the boat, who could not keep it at that one place. And so we lost great ground, and I took the oars again. So that is an experience like to keeping yourself at 51%. You have to work very hard to keep your attainment, because all the forces of hell will oppose you. That is why it is very good to continue on in good works in violet flame, so you have 52% and 53%. So if one fine day you make some karma, you've still got your 51% in the cup. And if you get to 60%, you've still got some leverage. So I think it's dangerous to ride on one's oars, as you might say, at 51%. And I think it is a moment when, because you have earned it, you can do the kinds of things you want to do, which are in line with service and greater service and attaining your self-mastery and your adeptship, and building on a solid foundation. You're past the danger point. And it's a great feeling, but one should not be too comfortable.
Okay. Thank you, Mother.
Hi, Mother. My name is Carolee Dell, and I've got a question having to do with yesterday's lecture. And I had it all together yesterday, so I hope I can put it together today. On this subject, rather the relationship between the will of God, karma, and making the call if there's a long-standing problem that one is battling with, is I know that you know what I've been going through personally, and I hope it can benefit some of the people here. When you're making a call and it seemingly isn't getting answered, and I know it is getting answered at some level, but if the soul needs to go through the initiation for the purpose of learning the experiences that it's bringing, and if it is the will of God that the soul be healed or that the soul pass through this, I'm stuck on what the relationship is between that will of God and between the karma. And it's probably very simple, but I'm not getting it. I just don't understand it.
I'd like to read you, if I may, a passage from the Ashram notes which touches on this question. You are seeking healing, and so I will read you 4 paragraphs from Ashram Note 36, page 163. It says, at the conclusion of your ritual meditations and mantrams, direct the healing light to those who ask you to pray for them in their afflictions. Visualize a shaft of white light tinged with the emerald color of heaven's healing green descending from your I Am Presence, passing through the heart of your Christ self, and then being released through your own heart chakra to the one whose suffering you would alleviate. Be sure to see this shaft of light as an all-powerful beacon of intense whiteness. See it enter the body of the afflicted one through and under the direction of his Holy Christ self. This is important, for the Holy Christ self is the mediator of the light and the true personal physician of each one. The Holy Christ self will prescribe and regulate the quality and quantity of light that can be absorbed and applied to all of one's needs and not just a particular condition. For the Holy Christ self deals in wholeness and the healing of the whole manifestation, from the inner to the outer, from cause to effect. Now these 2 concluding paragraphs that I will read to you from this note, which I think you would want to read the entire note, this is what they say. If it be the will of God that the blind be made whole, then your prayers for healing shall be answered. If not, as is often the case, then teach that one how to first heal himself of a spiritual blindness that blinds him to the karmic causes from past lives that have resulted in his blindness in this life. Teach him that if his soul be healed, and he diligently balance his karma by selfless service and the violet flame, then he shall attain the kingdom. If he seek healing for the body, he may receive it, but he may not attain the kingdom. What this teaches us is that some of us may carry conditions with us throughout our lives. Paul told us he had a thorn in his flesh. No one knows what that thorn was. He had some kind of a physical burden. I have carried burdens in this lifetime, and you are carrying a burden in this lifetime. I think everyone here may have some burden that they carry, that they know of or that they don't know of. That is physical. But if it is the will of God that we carry the burden to learn a lesson, to balance world karma or personal karma, then we will continue to carry it. If we tell God we would rather balance the karma and carry it if it is His will, than to merely be made physically perfect. So if we are seeking only the perfection of the physical, and that is what we insist upon, we may receive that healing, but we may not achieve the kingdom because we will not have fulfilled the requirement of the law. I am always hopeful that you can be healed of the affliction that is upon you. And it may be with the new healing methods that are being brought into this community that you may find that healing. I am not certain in my heart that you have learned the karmic causes of your affliction or the condition of consciousness that sustains it, such as anxiety and fear, which I think you are aware of that you have at times. I would go around the back door and another way to achieve this healing, which is to find the causes and cores of the conditions in your past lives, in your karma, and in your physical and other bodies today. I would let go of desiring to be healed of it and call the fearlessness flame to be healed of the fear of it. And I know that this is an ongoing condition from which you suffer greatly. And I don't want you to think that I'm saying these things lightly, because I know the burden is great. And I know that it is not easy to do what I'm saying when you face something on a daily basis. I don't think that any one of us escapes some kind of affliction. I was talking to someone about a parent whose child was in a major injury and has lost portions of the ability to use the brain and has other physical problems. And this family has already spent $1 million on the healing of this child. It's a karmic situation of that family. And it has made this problem and this condition the center of the household that all the other children and the family must be involved in on a daily basis. And when I compare my life to this child's life and now this family's life, I say to myself, I would rather have had the problems I have had and the karma that I have had to deal with than to have had this particular situation. And I think when it comes down to it, most of us would prefer our own karma to someone else's. And as difficult as it may seem, you need to embrace the condition that you have as the divine justice of a cosmos, returning to you what is yours and only yours to resolve. And instead of being tense and tightened up about it and frightened about it and depressed about it and anxious and wondering, why do I have this and why can't I be healed, that we have to seek other things and trust that this thing will disappear when it should lawfully disappear. And I believe that because you're a Chela on the path, you would rather have the promise of your resurrection and your ascension than the delivery of something that could not be balanced any other way than you are dealing with it. But I do want you to know that I do have hope that this condition can be healed.
Thank you. I think the difficult part is just getting into the astral plane, because you can't just hold the divine image, and it's a very difficult thing to walk through. It's not just physical, you know, and I know you know what it is, and that's the part that I get concerned about.
I think that you, in these periods of wakefulness and sleeplessness, that you must have such a love for God that you can recite the 23rd Psalm, you can recite other Psalms, and know that Jesus descended into hell following his crucifixion. And if you are in hell, then you have to not identify yourself as a part of that hell and experience the agony of it, but experience God with you in hell. And if God is with you in hell and taking you on a journey to hell, you are going to be there with God and be there with Archangel Michael. In other words, the experience you are having is definitely an opportunity for self-mastery. And you have to know and make up your mind in advance that when this comes upon you, you are going to hang on and affirm God and not succumb to the forces of hell that would scatter and devour you.
I'm trying.
And you do have to remember, when you ask why, that there is no injustice anywhere in the universe. So you're going to make the most of the challenge that is before you and prove your victory. Even if the condition goes away, you will have the dominion of consciousness over it. And that's what you must remember is the goal. This may be a karma that is very sparing and very much mitigated by comparison with the deed or the cause that set it in motion. Have you ever thought of that?
Yes.
This itself could be a tremendous mitigation.
I've thought a lot of it, yeah. Okay, thank you.
This concludes our questions and answers as a result of the time. We'll have our benediction.
Beloved, mighty I Am presence from the heart of God, seal us in the I Am that I Am. Seal us in the cosmic cross of white fire. Seal us in our mighty I Am presence. Seal us in our holy Christ self. Beloved, mighty I Am presence, as we know that the day has dawned of our April 23rd karma, so I ask that we might enter into the karmic challenge of the hour with rejoicing, with resources, with practicality, with tremendous joy and thanksgiving for the justice of God, with much discrimination of the Christ self, and with the determination that we shall overcome in the name of Jesus Christ. By the authority of the living word, in the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, and the Divine Mother. Amen.
We'll hear our song, God is My Victory, as we are retiring.
His presence takes command. I cannot know